this roundtable with the Committee on General Governmental Operations and Cultural Affairs is now back in order. We thank the presence of the Public Auditor, the Office of Public Accountability, Ms. Brooks. Please.
Good morning, Vice Speaker, and thank you for the invitation to be here. Let me just say at the outset, even when it was a bigger military buildup, where OPA stood in the growth was always kind of like up in the air. The biggest concern I've always had was whether or not agencies more directly affected, like Department of Revenue and Taxation, had what I refer to as the accounting infrastructure or the financial infrastructure in place. We always had concern about infrastructure of roads, utilities. My concern was always if the financial infrastructure was in place for like agencies like Department of Revenue and Taxation to ensure that we had that they had the capability of going and ensuring that those military contractors, we were collecting our 4%. The military has always said on record, yes, that they are subject to local taxation, but I don't know if they had that infrastructure in place to be able to ensure that with confidence that they are collecting. So let me just read my testimony as it pertains more specifically to my agency, and then I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay. Dear Vice Speaker Cruz, this is in response to your letter of May 16, 2014. It is difficult to quantify what impact the anticipated relocation of the Marines to Guam might have on the operations of the Office of Public Accountability. However, as the economy of Guam grows, the government of Guam would also grow. At the May 16 Special Economic Service meeting, the Bureau of Budget and Management Research 5-year forecast showed that through FY 2018, estimated government expenditures would climb to $734 million from $591 million in FY 2014. That's their estimate for FY 2014. BBMR assumed a growth rate of 3% for general government operations and 4% for education and public safety operations. The majority of the increases in expenditures will be in salaries and benefits. As OPA is classified under general government, OPA 2 would share in some of that organic growth, though it is likely to be small. Right? So that's the best estimate that I could provide for you, because you know, an audit presumably that we would do would be to see what steps has revenue and taxation done in ensuring collectability of those federal government contracts. That would be the likely scenario that I would see. And of course, if there are any requests of audits, let's say from your office or from any other senator, you know, that would be the type of thing that we would do. But beyond that, I don't anticipate, let me rephrase, I don't know what that anticipated buildup might have on my operations at this time.
Well, no, actually, thank you, because it was your concern about whether or not revenue and taxation would be able to collect from the contractors.
Yes.
That resulted in us introducing legislation and getting legislation passed that required that in order to get a license, that they had to get all these stamps from each of the divisions up at Revenue and Taxation to make sure that their taxes were paid before you could renew their license. And the Contractors License Board assisted us in doing that to make sure that these issues had been addressed. So that part was your point about the direct department's impact. As you put it, this year the anticipated expenditure is 591, and in 2018 they expect it to be at 734. That's a good about $140 million increase. What what we were hoping in conducting these hearings was to ask the departments, what do you figure or anticipate is going to be the impact on your department? How many additional personnel will you need? How many additional policemen will you need? How many additional guards will you need at DOC? How many additional personnel, and what anticipated expenses do you anticipate as a result of this, so that we can start planning for it? And we're not getting it. Well, we're going to get something on the 13th, I guess, from the governor's office, but I thought it was important to start looking at that and at least get a feel for if we needed to put it into this year's budget, or could we wait until the following year's budget. I don't know now. So that go ahead. No, I mean, so that was the reason why these hearings were being conducted, because in anticipation we should start. The budget is for the next year. We can't, after we've divvied up all the money, all of a sudden go back and say, actually we need more police officers here, and so we're going to take it from.
Possibly a roundtable discussion might be, I'm sure the governor, as we know, the governor's position is supportive of the military buildup, and I do recall talking to, I've become a little bit skeptical, although when I met briefly with Mr. Ludovici, yeah, my comment had been is, what buildup? And then he said, no, it really is. And I said, really? Okay. And then, of course, now with the SES and all of that. So I've attempted to try to get myself geared up to it. What is difficult to figure out is because I keep on hearing that there's still the cloud that maybe it might not come. There's one scenario, and so, but I guess prudently, and let me just say, I think it is appropriate for you to have these types of hearings, but maybe in a roundtable discussion to kind of hear where things are. And I think the biggest player, of course, is the military. Is when do they anticipate? What are their plans, and when do they expect, let's say, the first wave of Marines to happen? Is that I keep on hearing numbers like 2018, 20 and beyond. So that's really the key. And what exactly do they anticipate in the buildup? Because we see now, for example, in Harmon, the deserted village there, and a few things like that. And of course, we saw the ramp up temporarily or the spike in housing prices, and then leveling off. So all of these are, I don't want to say speculation, but there was speculation in the past. So now I think it seems like it's a more moderated growth as opposed to that really.
And the other thing that we were hoping to do was to find out for the departments, how were we going to address what even in the SEIS is putting, that they anticipate that there should be an increase in the number of government employees in public safety and in DOC and a couple of others. But then after a certain point, they anticipated that would have to ramp down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know as well as I do that once you're hired, you're here until you're retired. And so how could we start planning for that? How could we plan for an increase in police officers for 6 or 7 years, and then a decrease or whatever I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think
but those are the kinds of things that we wanted to have answered, so that we could have comments, because the SEIS does state that they anticipate that there's going to be need growth in government, the number of personnel in various departments, but that they wouldn't be needed after a certain point. And so how do we plan for that is our concern.
Well, and I think possibly starting with the Bureau of Budget's estimate, what constituted how they got their numbers might be, what was this in anticipation of the military buildup, or this was without the military buildup?
Yeah.
Do they have
And
another?
that was a 3%
Yeah.
organic growth for the next 4 years. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, and that's kind of like where, and rightly so. I'm not. I certainly would welcome the input of someone like Gary Hiles, as the economist, because when we had the meeting on that Friday, like as we see the downward construction in like the hotel, like the new Dusitani and the hospital. Of course, we see that the hospital at Naval Hospital is online, although they still have to tear down. That's the plan, because to plan to tear down, so there's going to be construction there. We see the tapering off, but then we won't see a dip, he said, because other construction that's happening. And that was a thing that I wasn't quite fully aware of, and that was one of the things that Ludovici mentioned to me, that there has been other construction projects ongoing at Anderson and other areas, although they're not quite getting the full attention because they're not labeled, well, they're just bigger upgrades. And so that helps us from a construction activity, as the other private sectors taper down. Those will, we won't have a dip, but rather a leveling. At least we'll stabilize at the level where we are there, which is good, and stuff. So, but yeah, I think maybe having a few more discussions with, I'm not sure who the gentleman was who spoke at the Rotary on behalf of the military, and with BBMR, what was behind their growth. Was it pure organic growth, or did it even consider a bit of the buildup? Because I'm hearing, for example, that the chief of police is going to have close to 50 police officers, by the end of the year, or a number like that. And is that in the budget? I know that they have to ramp up, because they have been woefully inadequate compared to, let's say, fire, But wow, 50 is a significant growth, and stuff. So yeah, but those are what we call I guess the first responders, are the ones who will be more directly affected, as opposed to my agency would be more indirectly affected.
Well, I thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate your input, and I guess we're adjourned for the day, since the rest of the government's not coming. Okay, thank you very much. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.